Okay. So, yeah, I'm so happy that you've all chosen to spend some time with me this afternoon. I always love to share what God has been doing and has done for me in the past, and hopefully will inspire people to do a number of things. First of all, like Nadine was saying, we need to get out of the cities. That's one of the main um, messages that I bring to people. As Nadine was saying, it'll be a crime to grow food, and that's really sad. In the country, it's going to come as well, but I think a little later on, hopefully long enough for us to be able to survive through that first hard hit that the devil's going to have against God's people. We won't be scared to go out into the bush. If you understand the difference between the city living and the bush, we are what, 40 minutes out of Glen Innes into the bush, and so we only have a couple of neighbours around. 800 acres, 1,200 acres, 370 acres. There are neighbours, so we don't really see a lot of them. We can count how many cars go past every day. It's not a busy road. And there are plenty of snakes and all those things, but you wouldn't come across every day in the city. So to have someone come from the city to the country, we have a thing called fear. There's so many fears about, first of all, where's the hospital is the first question. How far away is the hospital? It's a fear that they can't look after themselves and their health, or an emergency. Now, Ellen White has quotes where she says that we should be able to use the simple herbs in an emergency. Now, comfrey, we've seen a comfrey plant there, Nadine, that you showed, and that heals bones very quickly. I have a testimony of my own. I broke my foot trying to start a motorbike. This was some 20 years ago, and I couldn't walk on it. It was the most painful experience I had for a long time, and I wrapped it up in comfrey leaves with a bit of wheat germ oil and honey. And I had it on for 3 weeks. The swelling went down, the pain went away, and I was fine thereafter. But you have to know these things. You have to have them in your garden, because how are you going to buy a comfrey leaf when you're miles away from the town, or even in the city? Where are you going to get comfrey? So the idea of country living, get out as fast as you can, because it takes at least 2 or 3 years to settle in. And if the place doesn't have a garden or fruit trees, then they take time to grow. So my admonition to those that have the inkling to get out into the country, do it now. I tell you why. The prices are going through the roof. You pay the same amount almost here as what you would in town for a block of land, where before it was so much cheaper. It was affordable. So we may have lost that time. Having said that, the prices of food are going up. So what would be a very good income or a job to do? Food production, right? Now, it'd have to be legal. You'd have to have it as a business in the future, because, as Nadine said, if you're growing it in your backyard, they'll probably take it off you or fine you or put you in jail for your carbon footprint being too big. So urgent. Tell if there's anything you get out of this message, it is urgent that you get out of the cities. Now, people are going to say to me, what about all the people in the cities? We need to warn them as well. My question to everyone is, how many people are you reaching? How many people have you brought to the Lord in the last 3 or 4 years? It's a funny thing in the city. I'm meeting more people and talking to more people about what we do and who we are and what our mission is since I left the city than I was in the city. I was so busy trying to keep my head above water that I would be taking meetings at night and few people come because they're all too busy. So urgent call, get out of the cities. And if Ellen White was here, she would be saying it 3 or 4 times, get out of the city, get out of the city, get out of the city. We need to be programmed from the idea that we need to stay in the city to save souls. Now, if you've lost your soul already because you haven't followed the counsel of God to get out, then how are you going to take someone else out? Where are you going to take them to? Have you got food enough for those people to eat and work enough for them to do to support their lives when they come to the country? So very, look, the call is loud and long. I can't but emphasize the issues that are going on in the world. Time is so short. And even if it's 10 years, which everybody tells me, I don't know, how many of you think it's 10 years that we have? Because that 10-year, when I ask people and share these testimonies, they all say, oh, no, it won't be happening for another 10 years. And that's like across the board. It could happen this year very easily if you're following what's happening in the world. Mm. The last movements will be rapid ones, and they're sure fulfilling. Okay, so after my stirring remarks, I like to tell you where I began with the herbs and the wild weeds. So, brought up in the country, and we weren't eating the weeds, but we had our own garden. Some of the herbs we did have in the garden that we used, but it wasn't anything real exciting, if you know what I mean. We didn't have a big patch for herbs. My grandparents were missionaries, and they were taught how to do hydrotherapy and use the simple plants around them, but we didn't actually see them too much because they were about their thing and we were about ours. But I was introduced to the garden, and I love gardening, and I still love gardening. I was spending too much time in the garden yesterday, and then got caught out with almost being late for Sabbath. I had a video that I took just before I left the farm that I was going to show, and I just haven't been able to get it across onto the laptop. Maybe at the end, if anyone's interested and knows how to take a video off the iPhone and put it onto the computer, we'll be able to show it.
I think, Brother John, you can send it to the email.
Yes.
You can send it to the email, and then from the computer, you can log into your email and open it up. That's what I usually do.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, we'll give that a go. It doesn't look much. There's weeds everywhere because I'm reticent to pull weeds out now, other than the poisonous ones or the ones that are giving me trouble. But yeah, the animals love them. They eat the weeds just as much as they eat the grass. The more variety, the better. So to get to to my life in the early days when I had a herbalist come from America, and he shared the 8 laws of health with me for the first time. And I'm 22 at the time. And the way he brought it through the 8 laws of health, that the herbs were only a part of all of those things that you have to do. So if someone has kidney problems, if you give them a herb and not get them to reduce their salt or sugar or chew their food or go for a walk or get them in the sun, all these things add on to the power of the herb. Lifestyle changes make a major difference. Over the years, this is nearly 40 years now, later, I've realized that my best encouragement to begin with is chew your food. Simple thing. We've had people go home after 4 days without their pills and potions and herbs and supplements, without the symptoms of when they came, in just 4 days, because they started chewing their food, slowing down at the mealtime, taking time to be with God. So make your meal a spiritual exercise. So chewing rather than talking, and spend as much time as you possibly can with your meal. If you have 20 minutes minimum for a meal and you're chewing thoroughly, you're going to absorb so much more of that food or herb or weed or green drink or whatever it is that you're having than you would if you just gulp it down. And we've proven this over and over again, that if we can slow them down with their meals, make them chew, and have them thinking about God. So one of the ways you can look up on your iPhone or your device, and while you're eating, you see what's on your plate and find out what is in that potato or in that green leaf or that nut or seed, and praise God for every one of the components in that piece of food. It'll take you some time, but we want you to draw your meal time out to 40 minutes. Your stomach will be saying, thank you, God bless you. Do it again tomorrow. You won't have all those aches and pains in your digestive system, and you'll get more energy, and you'll be able to sustain your life healthfully because it's not battling with inflammation. Now, if you can think of big pieces of food going through your digestive system, what's it doing to the soft lining of the digestive system? Causing inflammation, irritation, because it should be, you chew it enough so that it's a liquid rather than a solid. You'll find it will slip right through your digestive system. Your bowel movements will be more regular, your energy levels will be picked up, and you'll be able to praise God for that, just by that one thing. How about there's 7 more? Exercise and water and sunshine and abstemiousness and all the 8 laws of health. You put that into practice and you'll be telling others, like the pastor that came and had his 3 boxes of pills, one from the doctor, one from the naturopath, and one from his own research online. He went away not having to take any. He came telling us that he couldn't eat anything but meat. Right? If he had vegetables, it would make his stomach sore. In 4 days, chewing 3 times a day, the meals slowly and calmly, and doing his job, his part of the job, and allowing the digestive system to do the rest. Now, I'm not saying that you chew slowly. You chew the food properly. Make sure that it doesn't go down with little pieces, because those little pieces can damage the soft lining of your intestine. Now, if you look into the small intestine, you'll see that there are villi, little finger-like projections all over the small intestine. On those villi are microvilli, even smaller villi, which you can't see without a microscope. How is a pea or a nut or a seed or a half-chewed carrot or piece of carrot going to fit through something so small? It doesn't. It goes all the way through, and all the energy that you would have gained from chewing that properly is lost. Now, does God want us to be wasteful? We're thinking we're wasting time. We've got to get back to work. We're wasting health and time and money if we don't chew our food. Now, what happens when the food isn't chewed and absorbed properly? The body says, I need more. You didn't give me enough, because it's gone into the toilet rather than into your veins and into the blood and into the tissue. So you eat more. And of course, it's not satisfying. So you have to eat fatty foods to make your stomach feel satisfied. And easy to put on weight if you don't chew. Very easy. Because your body is calling for it, and you know you're hungry, and yet you're overweight. Now, what is gluttony in the Bible? Is it a sin, or is it something God encourages? Of course, we all know that gluttony is a sin. I was talking to another pastor just the other week, and he was saying, how do I get rid of this? And when I told him the spiritual part of the conversation, I said to him, look, you know about gluttony. You know that if you eat more than what you should, then you're eating someone else's serve of that food. So you're stealing from somebody else. You're robbing God of the privilege of having another being on this planet fed. So overeating is an issue. And overeating often comes from not chewing the food properly and then getting involved in carbs and sugary foods and fatty foods that actually will make you feel like you've actually eaten something. With our diet, with the smoothies and all the vegetables, the fresh vegetables, salads, and all the garden vegetables, you can eat more and not feel so heavily burdened than you would with a meat diet or a heavy fat diet or a heavy processed diet. So if we think about it as our mealtime as a spiritual event, 3 times a day, you have the opportunity to say no to everybody, sit down quietly, pray to the Lord. Thank you for the food before me. This apple has vitamin C in it. This carrot has beta carotene in it. And go through him and thank him. Then find what the beta carotene is good for. We all know, right? It's good for your eyes and many other things. So every mealtime becomes an education time, and you'll look forward to it. You'll be learning and you'll be sharing, because those pains in the stomach will go away. The weight will fall off. We had one of the, I'm working in a church there in Sydney, and one of the elders came up and said, look, I've lost 8 kilos. I couldn't tell. But he decided that he was going to change and chew his food and do the things that I've been telling them to do. 8 kilos in just a month. So the idea of the simplest things is what we are to teach the people. chew your food is the simplest thing to start with. Then, of course, the water drinking. People say, I don't like water. Get them to put a little bit of salt in the water and it will become more palatable. Get them to go outside in the sun and they'll get a little hot and sweat and the body will call for water. There are ways to get herbal teas, another way to get people to drink more water. So with the herbs, as I'm saying, it's a part of the proper diet, the healing side of the proper diet law. So as I'm sharing them, be aware that I have alerted you to the 8 laws of health. That's my main task in this world, is to get people onto those 8 laws of health. And herbs are a main part of it when it comes to healing. But sunlight and chewing and drinking water and going to bed at the right time, all those things are just as important. So it comes back to your motive. What are you here on the planet for? To please your tongue or to use your tongue to please God? Telling others all the wonderful things that he's doing for you constantly. And 3 times a day, you can be learning of the things that he is actually doing for you. I had a case just this week, low sodium. Not very many people out there with low sodium. She ended up in hospital, and it was a very dangerous thing. She has cancer, and not getting enough nutrient, was not getting enough sodium, and she was on a healthy diet for the cancer for 4 years, all working really well. She was managing it. But as it come down, the sodium levels come down, cognition wasn't there, she forgot to drink, and before long she's in hospital. So just a simple thing as sodium, keeping it at the right amount, protein, the right amount of fiber, and so on. So we need to pull that all into what we're going to talk about. So with the herbs, if you're going to use them as food, you'll find that there's plenty of fiber in them. I don't know whether any of you have noticed that. Mostly fiber, especially the leafy green part of the plant is mostly fiber, but packed full of minerals and trace elements and all the good things that make up our frame, without the starches around them, without the fats around them. They're there, very thin skin on a leaf. So the idea is you can have a whole heap more fiber and minerals and vitamins and trace elements and minerals out of something that is lacking or less of fats and starches. If you can get enough of it, it'll give you enough protein as well. For an average person, they're saying about 2 liters a day. It's quite a bit. We have 2 horses on the property, on the farm, and they eat far more than 2 liters of grass. They keep our lawn mowed very nicely, and we're thankful for it. So it sounds a lot, but when it's a smoothie, it's mostly moisture or water. So over a period of an hour to chew it, as well as the other food that you're going to eat, then the moisture is absorbed first. The water is taken out of the food first before anything. It's dehydrated, if you could use the term. So the water goes out of the stomach, and the stomach then is able to work. And so if it's taking a period of time where you're taking it in, but chewing it and making sure that there's nothing in it that will harm the system, you can eat a lot more of it, because it's the moisture that you've taken in with it, with the leaf or the leafy greens, are going to be removed by your stomach as the digestive process happens. So then the proteins that are in the green leaves are then left for you without fats and without starches. Amazing? It's just the way God has made it. Okay, so getting back to my story, I ended up at Living Valley Springs, a health retreat in Queensland, as the gardener. And I had some issues early in the piece where the guests that were coming, and we had up to 13 people that we could put in an old Queensland farm house. You know, it's the 4-room thing. One was a kitchen and one was a lounge room. You had 2 bedrooms, and then on the veranda you'd have another one, and so that made 3 bedrooms. The thing was falling apart. You could see through the floor in places. The walls were separating away from the floor, so you could see down through them. But we tidied it up and cleaned it up nicely, and we had up to 13 people come, sleeping on the floor, on the lounge, in the rooms, bodies everywhere, because the price was right. And the treatment was right too. People were getting well and going home without their medications. Not everybody, but those that followed the program. So I'm the gardener, and I wanted desperately to be a therapist, but it wasn't to be. And so in the garden, I was doing my gardening, and someone would come over. After a while, they come over and they start talking about organic gardening. And of course, I had plenty to tell them about organic gardening, because I was battling with all the problems that you have with organic gardening getting started. As it went on, someone else would come out, and someone else. And before long, there'd be 3 or 4 people of the group standing around listening to the gardener. Well, it wasn't so... it wasn't making the boss very happy, because they were missing out on their lecture and their treatments, and they didn't know where they were, so that there was some concern. Anyway, eventually the boss came down and said, look, you don't do it. Just don't talk to them. Well, it's pretty hard not to talk to someone that is coming to look for someone to talk to, rather than being in a lecture that they couldn't understand. The information that the naturopaths were given was very deep, giving them, if anyone's done a detox, you'll understand what I'm saying. You get headaches, you get lethargic, you don't really want to just sit around and listen to someone tell you something that you can't understand. So eventually they kept the people kept coming, and so the boss came and said, look, we'll give you 1 hour to talk to them about organic gardening, because it looks like they like it. But that's it, 1 hour. So I ended up doing my 1 hour lecture. The same happened with the herb garden. When I started the herb garden, they'd come out even more, because they're more interested in healing and herbs than they were in changing their lifestyles because of what was happening in their bodies. So they gave me another hour of the naturopath's time to share with them about herbs. Now, this is what I was going to do for you as well. So we had a short talk, something like I'm doing now, introducing the herbs. And I would turn around and say, come on outside, we'll actually go and see the herbs. I get to the bottom of the steps, of the sanitarium building, and I turn around, I pick up a dandelion or a cat's ear or a one of the herbs. There was gotcha cola in the grass up there. There was all the herbs were there, just right near the door. And I'd pick up one at a time, and they're all trying to look around each other to get out the door to see what herb was there, and I'd pass them on. Well, I was trying to get them to understand that herbs are everywhere, and God has made them that way so that everybody has an opportunity to heal themselves his way. And so I would share that with them as well. And most of them weren't Adventist. Some of them weren't Christian even. And so then we'd walk a little further, and we get around the house. And by that time, my hour was up. And we would have seen at least 20 different plants that they could use as healing or to be able to eat and get nutrition from it. So then I got into poulticing, how to use those herbs as a poultice. I talked to you about the comfrey poultice on my foot when it was broken. Stories, many more stories about comfrey as well. The latest is the kangaroos on our property were like rabbits. There were so many of them, and there wasn't enough food to eat, so they started eating the bark off the trees, our fruit trees that we just planted, especially the citrus. So if you're going into the country and you're going to plant citrus and you don't have a good fence to keep the animals out, rabbits will do it as well. You want to make sure you put a netting or some wire around your citrus, because they love the tender bark when it's young like that. Anyway, eight of the trees were almost ring-barked. And so we put a poultice of charcoal and slippery elm and the comfrey. And we left that on, changed them 2 or 3 times over a couple of months. And they're all looking as healthy as anything now. And the skin, I mean, the bark hasn't fully grown back, but they're bearing fruit. So hopefully before too long, we'll have something to eat from those. And the poultice is what actually made the difference. So poulticing, I ended up going to India for a year and came back to work at Living Valley Springs. And over there, I didn't have the herbs. I didn't know that the Indian herbs were foreign to me. Not all of them, but most of them. And so I started using the simple things like potato and onion and garlic and ginger and all the things that were in their homes. And as I went from house to house, as they would invite me to come and see, and they're sick and ask for help, I'll get them to go to the cupboard and bring out the different food stuffs that are very, very healing. Like the cabbage with the mastitis. You smash the cabbage leaf up a little and put it, you don't even have to smash it up, but it's more comfortable if it is, and put it on the breast. Potato, they end up calling me Dr. Potato Head, because if you ask me to do a quick treatment on some painful part, I'd be putting on a potato poultice, because it's cooling for one thing, and it's drawing, feels really nice, and helps to reduce the inflammation very quickly. So when I come back from India that year, went back to work, and there was someone come and ask me, and my automatic response was, "Oh, don't put potato poultice." And so I'd take and put the potato on, the relief was there, and soon everybody had poultices on them in some place, elbow, shoulder, knee, foot. And again, the boss came over and said, John, we're going to go broke if you don't charge for all this poultice material that you're using. And so they gave me another hour. So I had 3 hours of lectures about herbs and plants and gardening. So that's where I got the love for the weeds, the herbs, the garden was there, and it was like a treasure chest. And I would be bringing weeds and herbs and plants from all over the place into the garden. And so I'm doing that now as well. We have so many more weeds in our garden, praise the Lord, than what we did when we started, meaning there's diversity in the soil. Now, there's all the plants have different needs of the microbiome in their root system. So they draw out something that their neighbor doesn't draw out more than each other. And so it actually helps the fertility of your soil to have plenty of weeds, as you'll see in my my video if we get it going. Okay, so that's my introduction. That's where I come from. You can call me Dr. Potato Head. I'll hold it very high because I see God in the potato poultice, relieving the pain of those that can't afford. Like in India, they couldn't afford to even see the doctor, let alone buy his drugs. So to give them something out of their own cupboard, garlic, onion, potato, carrot, all these things have healing properties, and them not have to bother their husband for extra money to buy expensive medication or even go to see the doctor. Okay, so I used to run these health clubs, and this is how we started the farm. One of the students was very keen, never heard this stuff before, been an Adventist since childhood. She wasn't born an Adventist. Her parents became Adventist when she was young, but they hadn't heard of Ellen White other than a few, Desire of Ages and Great Controversy and Steps to Christ. They hadn't been taught anything about country living or herbs and stuff. And so it was all new to her and the rest of the Filipino group that I was sharing with. But she would go home and practice what she learned on a lady that she was looking after full-time, 24-hour care. And they dug a little garden, and I was suggesting that everyone should have something growing, even if it was in a pot plant. So she went back to the house and asked the lady, can we dig some of your backyard to put a garden in? And so they allowed, and every day they would go out and tend it. And this had such an effect on the lady. She said, we always had a garden when we were younger, and it just brought her alive. She was getting on in years and not able to do many things, but she sat there and they talked as they were gardening, and it just made a bond that is still there today. And she's not even like she's 9 hours away from it, and they still ring and ask what to do for this. So Marissa asked me, she rings me up after 7 years after the program. She'd been back to the Philippines a couple of times and run some programs, and went back for her sister who had breast cancer, which cleared up within 7 weeks. And it will, but the person has to continue following those laws of health to keep the body from falling back into the same state which caused the cancer in the first place. So her experience was just amazing in just those few years. And she rings me and says, can you have a look at this property and see whether it's worth buying? And it had 3 spring-fed dams, It had very good soil. It was facing north. It had slope. There was one dam that was high enough to pump water to, so that we can siphon the water out and not have to pump. All the things. A 3-bedroom house. Okay, so it wasn't the best, but it was all there. She had written down a list of things. Now, this is another thing I harp on. If you want a home in the country, write it down, write the list down. And you start with water, and then you go to soil, and then you'll have the aspect, how far away from your neighbors, facing which direction, and so on. Then, after all the things that Ella White says you should have on a farm, you want to put your own personal touch to it, which is, I want a 4-bedroom house with purple curtains or tiles or on the floor, or 3 or 4 bathrooms, because that's just what you're happy with, and put your personal touch to it, asking for personal things, because if you're not happy when you get out there, then you'll come back, right? You'll come back for sure. All those things that you would keep you on the farm, you tell God, if there's a 4-bedroom house, I'll stay there. And if it has banana trees or overlooks the ocean or is in the mountains, which I think that everybody should be looking at places in the mountains. Get away from the seashore. That's where most people are going to be, right? And to put a plug for dress reform, there's not much dress reform down there, right, on the beach. So the further you can get away from it, the easier it'll be on you and your family. And it'll be closer to run to the mountain that God wants you to go to when the time comes. So there was 4 pages of things that she put down that she wanted on the farm. Every single one of them has been fulfilled. She got everything she asked for. The right price, the right aspect, the closeness to the neighbors, you name it, it's all there. The garden, the orchard, there were some fruit trees. She said, yeah, at least have some fruit trees on it. We had a pear tree that was about 7 meters tall and about 4 meters wide, massive big pear tree. And the birds were eating the pears. That was it. And they just rain on the ground. The soil and the water was all the right amount of nutrient and water. This pear tree was producing very well, enough for maybe 4 or 5 pear trees. So, yeah, all the answers to all the requests that she asked. So write a list. Take some time. Now, I'm talking about time because chewing takes time as well. If you don't spend time with God telling him what you would like to have on the farm, you're not very interested in country living, right? Your interest isn't good enough. And that's why, if you're not out there, that's why you're not out there. So you show God your interest, even though it may be half-hearted, you're still interested. He will give you what you ask for as needed to draw you out. Wouldn't a father do that? That's what I do to my children. They want a bike, I'll get them a bike. I need to know the color, the boys or girls bike or mountain bike or road bike. To please them, I would give them the things that they ask for, but not just ask for a car or a bike or whatever it is, the type of bike. And so God wants us to talk to him. If you understand the righteousness by faith message, We're meant to be in contact with him constantly. Our breath, every breath should be a prayer, because prayer is the breath of the soul. You want to keep your soul alive? You'll need to pray at least 20 times a minute. That's how many times we breathe. So God's trying to say, walk with me, talk to me, ask me these things, and I'll tell you. I'll supply all your needs. Just come to me. And so the idea of righteousness by faith, are you choosing what to dress, what dress to wear, what clothing to wear, what shop to go to, what person you need to be with that will help you in your Christian journey, or you're going to help them in their Christian journey. And look, constantly, this is righteousness by faith. You're living by faith is you understand that you can't overcome sin. You need help. And you're crying out constantly for help. Those thoughts that make you do the wrong thing, when they're coming at you, that's when you need to have help. Not after it's happened or while it's happening. It needs to be as it's coming in as a temptation. You can ask the Lord, I can't handle this temptation. Take it. And immediately it'll be gone. He promises to overcome sin. That's the way we do it. And it's the same with our understanding of going to the country. Snakes, spiders, all the wild beasts that we have out there, kangaroos and pigs and deer and all the wild things. We've had to build a high fence to keep them out. And it's the same with our spiritual life. We want to keep out the demons. We have to have a high fence and a thick fence. And we even put a rabbit fence in so that the rabbits couldn't dig underneath the fence. And eventually we're going to have a netting over our orchard and our garden so that we're not attacked from above as well. So the spiritual lesson here is we need to be with God constantly, breathing our words and our thoughts, a spiritual breath. We're going to be doing it 20 times a minute and thanking God that he's there so that we can do it, because we're not doing it on our own. If we are, we're not going to make it. We're not going to overcome every sin. Okay, enough preaching. I'll get on with it. So let's have a look at chickweed. How do I get this onto the screen? Can you see the flower, the chickweed flower? Somebody
Yes.
tell me?
Yep.
Okay. Isn't it beautiful? Just look at that. It's just amazing. And you know how small it is? Smaller than a 1 cent piece.
Amazing.
There's hundreds of them on a single plant, and lots of seeds, of course. So to identify it, this is some of the identifying marks, right? The flower and the hairs. If you were to go, let me go to the next one. We can read this, but so the young shoots are edible, and you can eat the older ones as well. They're not real tasty, that's all. You can even dry them. They take a little while to dry, but not as long as I was going to say pigweed. Does anyone know what purslane? Anyone know what pigweed is? Or purslane? Yeah. If you could I didn't. We're going to get some to show you. Sorry.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're edible. These are edible plants. But with the chickweed, look at what is here. rheumatic pain, psoriasis, asthma, blood disorders, conjunctivitis, squeeze the juice into your eyes, constipation, inflammation. Now, inflammation is the basis of most disease. If you can control the inflammation long enough for the person that you're treating to gain confidence in you, all right, you remove the pain within one treatment, or reduce it in a way that is significant, and they know that what you did with prayer has done for their body. So many times. It's just, look, if you want to be a medical missionary that will be asked for every time the person gets a pain or have some suffering, you need to do it when they're in pain. So someone says, oh, I've got this sore back. When do you do it? You say, oh, I'll come tomorrow? No. Today, do it right then, because they're asking for help. They're in pain. You are going to sacrifice your time and whatever you are going to do for that person. What do you think that person's going to think of you? Amazing, right? When do they go to the doctor? Do they have to wait? You're competing with the doctor, whether you like it or not. We shouldn't be in the competitive mode, but that's what's happening. They would rather go to the doctor and get a quick fix, and bang. If you put a potato poultice on a swollen, sore knee, or a chickweed poultice, you take the chickweed, smash it up a bit, put it on as a poultice on the area that's painful, and the inflammation will reduce. And look at the next one, skin ailments. So if you've got a cut or a bruise or anything to do with the skin, put the chickweed on. Leave it on for a couple of hours and have a look. Put another one on. It won't hurt anything. It's only going to heal and give nutrient to the skin and relieve the pain and the suffering in the person. So inflammation, remember, is something. If anyone says they have a disease that has inflammation, then you know that you can use chickweed. You make a tea out of it. You can put it in your smoothie. You can put it directly onto the skin. You can make salves and creams and balms and all that, and have chickweed in. It's amazing for most problems. What about the last one, obesity? How's chickweed going to help with obesity? It's super nutritious. It's high in the omegas. So in the place of the animal products with the omega-3, 6, and 9, you've got a plant here that is the highest plant in omega-3, 6, and 9. So Elamite says, don't eat too many nuts. If any of you have changed from a meat diet to a vegetarian diet, from a vegetarian diet to a vegan diet, you'll understand that it's really hard to get the omega-3, 6, and 9 up in equal amounts. Here we have a plant God gave that has them in it, the highest plant source of omegas. That, well, I should say in the weed kingdom. So eat it every day if you can. In Queensland, it grows all the way through. Where we are now, it's just dying off. We had a patch about, I don't know, 3 meters long and 1 meter wide, and we just left it for the purslane and the chickweed. So they had their spots. We just grabbed the leaves, put it in the smoothie, and as it was getting older, of course, it was a little bit harder to have, but they're throwing up new shoots all the time through the growing season. I have a plant here. Does everybody know what purslane is? How do I get the camera to show?
Yes.
You can just put it in front of you, Brother John, and we should be able to
Oh,
see.
okay. All right. Got a bit of dirt on it. So all the minerals. So this just picked out of the garden fresh right now. But you can
Yeah.
see that they're starting to seed, and there's millions of seeds. So they'll come up next year. They have a red stalk. Can you see that?
Yeah.
It's reddish, the stalk. They have succulent type leaves. Oh, getting dirt all over my computer. Succulent leaves that are heart shaped.
Is it possible to have a
God's
bit more
showing
light
his
there,
love.
John? John, is it possible to put a bit more light on? It's a bit dark.
Yeah, we had lights on. Well, I had to shut the window because the curtains so that it wasn't too bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
What's
So
the name,
in
please?
India,
Can I know the name, please?
purslane.
How do you spell it?
Purslane. Purslane.
Thank you.
In India, we would have issues with malnutrition. Everyone knows that. When the ladies would come, maybe that's better. When the ladies would come to me with their children, whinging and runny nose and malnutrition with a big stomach, they would say to me, "So what can you do for my child?" And first thing you have to ask, so Ian's just brought a light. Does that make it better? Okay. All right. We'll have a post with the pictures on. Yeah, might make it easier. So they would say, "What can I do for my child?" And the first question I asked was, "So what do you feed them?" And they say, "Oh, all the regular, the Indian food." And I knew that wasn't correct, because the Indian food, although it's hot and spicy and it has too much salt and all that, it still has nutrition in it. Maybe not the rice, but not as much as what is necessary. But and so I would say, "So how many biscuits do they eat a day?" Because they all just feed 10 rupees for 15 sweet biscuits. That was the cheapest food. It was cheaper than lollies, and they were chewing on them all day. The amount of sugar that they would have eaten was phenomenal. And so mum's not getting sleep because of the child's screaming and shouting and having a fit with all the sugar in the body, and she's not getting sleep. Her days are getting longer because the child's awake longer. And anyway, we would say, "Okay, first thing, go and get some purslane, and you can eat it whichever way you like, cooked, raw, blanched. You can do whatever you like, but make a herbal tea out of it. Just get it into you. Within a day, the milk flow just comes again. It has that powerful effect on the mammary glands. So purslane is high in minerals, trace elements, omega-3, 6, and 9. It's all there, the same as milk, but comes from a plant. So to have it, so you'll find someone that has a child that is not able to sleep and they're whinging and crying. First, find out what the cause is. Remember, in Ministry of Healing, it says, find the cause, remove the cause, and then aid nature in its healing method. or its healing function. And so to find the cause first, get rid of those biscuits, because it's very hard to compete with sugar. Has anyone noticed that? Yeah, sugar's one of the hardest things, most addictive thing on the planet. Maybe not only because of the amount that it's taken, but it's addictive, and try to get the people off it is very hard. So the milk flows, the child's happy now, is able to drink the milk and get mother's nutrition up as well, and everyone's happy. So in our smoothie goes chickweed and purslane. It's all the healing properties of, and both of them have good inflammation reduction in the GI tract as well. All right, so constipation is a big thing too. A lot of the time, it's dehydration. Everyone tells me, so when I say, how many glasses do you drink a day? And everyone tells me 8. Regardless to how many they drink, it's 8 glasses of water. So what you might do, instead of asking how many glasses do they drink, how many times do you urinate throughout the day? Oftentimes I say, oh, I can't go to the toilet, my work, I'm too busy. So what does it tell you? They don't drink water through the day. They might drink it in the morning and in the evening, but they're not drinking it throughout the day. So the stools become hard because less moisture in the body and constipation. Now with these, both the chickweed and the purslane, they're very, there's a lot of fluid in them. The mucilage in it helps with pushing the stool through the bowel. So very good for constipation, chickweed as well as the purslane. I can vouch for it. Okay. All right, so it gives a description here. You'll see on the chickweed, maybe I can get a picture on. But you can see, what's the most prominent thing you can see here that is maybe different to other green leafy vegetables that you may eat? Most vegetables have flowers. Most vegetables have green leaves. And even seed pods. You see the little seed pod there sitting on the leaf. And there's flowers. Most vegetables have flowers. But do most vegetables have hair on them?
Mm.
Can you see the hair there?
Yeah.
On the leaf? And I don't know that I have a better picture, but down on the stalk underneath, in the middle of the picture there, you'll see there's hair on the stalk. And it'll be on one side, and then it'll get to a branch or a stalk coming off, and it'll turn to the other side and the other side. And so you got this alternate hair on the root. So it's one way to identify chickweed. You wouldn't want to eat something that looks like chickweed, which is radium weed. When it's very small, it looks like chickweed. Radium weed, as the name gives, is hot. It's going to burn. So you won't want that. The difference with the two is if you break the radium weed, you have a white sap come in. When you break the stalk of the chickweed, clear comes out, clear fluid. All right, so be aware of those things. And once the radium weed gets up this big, as big as what you're seeing on the screen, it's totally different. You can tell the difference. So it's only when they're very young. And if you ate some, it's not going to kill you. it might, I mean, the fire will be put out in the stomach. But having said so, if we've got dehydrated stomachs, people are not drinking enough fluid, then their ulcers can be formed with just lack of water and poor eating habits. So they could be irritated, the ulcers in your stomach could be irritated by the latex in the radium weed. So put down radium weed. I think I had have a picture here, or okay. Can you see? I've got an actual one here. Can you see? It kind of looks like chickweed.
Mm.
But what's different? Where are the hairs? No hairs at all, right? So that's, and they're not, the leaves are not opposite. Now, where am I? I'm putting it in the wrong spot. They don't go exactly opposite to each other. They go on an angle. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The leaves as they go out going opposite.
How do you spell this weed?
This is radium weed. R-A-D-I-U-M. Radium. Radium meaning radiate. So it is good for cancer. You break it. I'm going to break this one. It probably is very young. It might not have very much color. Hopefully you can see. So, all right, where are we? I'm going to just break it and put it up to the camera. Can you see the white on the end? It looks like wood glue.
Mm.
Yeah, that tells you that it's radium weed, that white sap, and it will burn. So if you have a skin cancer, dab that on as often as you can. It'll burn the skin cancer off. Now, whether you want to do such a thing, warts and other skin ailments will be burnt as well. So just be wary that is a potent irritant. If you get too much of it into your stomach, it might be a problem. But as I say, if you're drinking plenty of water and you're healthy and you accidentally have this instead of chickweed, which is highly unlikely that you'll be able to eat enough of it to make a problem. The gastric juices will put the fire out before it has any problems. But having said that, there is a use for it, warts and skin ailments. So chickweed. So did I show this one? I should. I don't think this is Estelle went out and picked it in the garden just now. You can see the little white flower. If I turn it around enough. Yeah. Very small. You can hardly see this one, but there's loads of them. And you see the seed pods as well. Yeah. That the flower turns into a seed, and thousands of seeds. Now, one day I'm hoping to get into the wild edibles and their seeds and see what I can make from them. Which reminds me, before I end, let me show you red thorny mat bush reed. It's a long name, but it's very important for survival in this country. The seeds of it can be made into bread. And when they're out, does anyone know where Yarrahapinni is?
No.
Where the Adventist Church has a campground there between Coffs Harbour and Kempsey. Anyway, it's on the beach. And as you walk down to the beach, on both sides of the path, as far as you can see, is thorny mat bush. And when they're on, there's so much food there that everyone's walking past. Because it's thorny, they don't go in. But you cut those off, get the seeds from them, grind them up, and you've got yourself a pancake or a flatbread, or you can make it into porridge. Thorny mat rush bush. Should I show it now? Maybe. Look, it's good to spend a whole hour on just each one of these herbs. And I tell you what, the health club problem, I think it's a bag. Ian, the bag is in the room on the floor. Could you grab it with the thorny mat Russian? Yeah, so with a health club, we go all afternoon. There's be 3 or 4 hours together, and we'll go through some herbs, we go through a scripture song, we go through ministry of healing, just a little bit of all of this over a 3-hour period, and it goes so fast. Oh, the white bag with the thorny, the mat rush seeds in it. I think it's on the floor there, isn't it? Sorry, Ian's my helper today, and he'll bring it for me. So, yeah, I'll show you. I'll send the program to Nadine, and she can show you, if you like, what we actually do. We have a scripture, memory verse as well, scripture songs, scripture memory verse, 8 laws of health information, herbs. We'll do wet sheet wrap or some hydrotherapy, a little bit of massage. We do a 5-minute neck and shoulder massage on each other before we start, and it brings the people in. Yeah, you can get people to come for a massage once they've had a taste of it. Bring your friends, and we just have a wonderful time together for the whole afternoon. And because it's interspersed, not there. Okay, I'll get it after. It might be in the cars. So, yeah, Adventists would bring their friends that are non-Adventists, and they would put up with my spiritual talk all the way through the program. And some of them come across, like the young man who had the cancer. I don't know whether I've told you this before, but it was a 26-year-old Filipino man. He'd had for, I think it was 8 years all up, that he had cancer that was foreign to the medical system. They didn't have anything for him. They were testing this and testing that. And he was just losing weight, and more weight and more weight. And eventually he couldn't eat. And so the medicine that they had given to him had destroyed his throat. And so they cauterized it because of how inflamed it was bleeding inside his throat. So they cauterized it. Then he couldn't eat. He just felt like he was going to choke every time he swallowed. And so they asked me to come along. We shared, first of all, the first 4 laws of health. The whole health club came. We went to their house. It was a Catholic house, a Catholic family, I should say. Lovely people. And the mother was beside herself, 8 years of just looking after her son that there was no hope. The doctors give them no hope. Every time the drugs that they gave or the treatment they gave, something else went wrong. Well, he sat there. Well, first of all, he came to the door. He couldn't look me in the eye. He was so depressed, so down. He sat there with everybody else in the circle in the large lounge room, a large Catholic family, so it was a big house, and mother, father, and I think the sister and brother were there. They listened to me tell them about Jesus through the 8 laws of health. By the end of, I think, 2.5 hours, he was beaming, literally beaming. there was hope. He had hope that healing could be done. The only issue we had, we couldn't get any food into him because he just couldn't swallow. But he was baptized in the bathtub in the house. Then he called all the people, all his family in one by one, and he told them, I want to see you in heaven. I want to see you there, because he realized if he can't eat, he's not going to live. There's nothing we could do to encourage him to. But he'd resolved that he was going to heaven. He had made it right with his family and his friends and with the Lord. And so he did pass away, but his mother was baptized. His mother's friend was baptized. They had a Bible study group in the house. Other people have been baptized since. So if you want a quick way into someone's heart, you help the sick in the family. And Aldine is the lady's name. Every time I go to Sydney, she wants me to come visit so she can give me something. They gave a donation of 8 rolls of wire for the fence to keep the pigs and the deer and their horses, next door horses, and all the animals, the kangaroos and wallabies and so on, out of the garden area. So, God is good. He'll repay you tenfold for the effort you do if you do it when it's needed. Right? If someone has a pain, stop your busy life. Put the poultice on. Do a little bit of massage. Look, a 5-minute neck and shoulder massage will sell anyone. If there's pain there and it's relieved, they'll come back for it every time. I'm working in the church there in Hornsby, and I have to take my massage table to church so that I can massage all the aches and the pains that are happening during the week. Only been there 2 months. They already want the program. God is good, and his ways are perfect. He wants us to understand that in the plants and in our hands, we have tools that are going to win people to his kingdom. So keep your eye out for pain, and remember that inflammation is pain. Inflamed whatever. So the little part of the word flame means it's burning, it's hot. It needs to have the fire put out. What puts out fire? Water, right? So if they're not drinking, their pain is going to be worse than if they were drinking. More water, more hydration, the flame in the stomach or the knee or the back or the neck or hand or elbow, all those pains are going to be relieved by drinking water. Now, they hate water, right? They hate it. They usually drink coffee and tea and diuretics, Coca-Cola and something in it. It has to have something in it. So put some salt in it, a little bit of salt, so that it makes it easier to go down. And they will drink twice as much water with the salt in it than without. But of course, the body's asking for water, more water to dilute the salt. And you want that because the sodium pump in our cells needs to be there in the right amount. So you drink more water, you need more salt. Fair enough? Along with that, you go to the garden and see what you've got there. And chickweed just may be in the flower garden or in a pot. I had an interesting experience. I knock on the door of this couple in a very rich area in Sydney, near Bondi, and we were doing a job there, and he was one of the professors that, like a doctor that was doing research into pacemakers way back then. And he was one of them that actually put the most input into the pacemakers. Anyway, so he started chatting, and I'm interested in medical things, and so he told me a bit about what he was doing, and then he was saying, "Oh, I have a real, I just have a bit of pain. That's all, a little bit in my back and a little bit in my knee and something in my shoulder." And as we're talking, I look down, and there's the arthritis herb, Gotcha Cola, in his front garden. So I said to him, "Look, see this? This is Gotcha Cola. This is good for arthritis." He says, "Yeah, I know. My wife went to Misty Mountain and learnt all these things, and she's keen for me to go, but I'm not interested." So right there in front of him was a cure for his condition. Well, a treatment, I should say, because it doesn't cure. You have to change the lifestyle to suit, to have a cure. So wherever you go, once we're finished, well, hopefully we don't finish, because there's so many herbs to study, so many plants that you can use beneficially on so many illnesses. And if you have 10 that you can use and eat yourself, as well as get the benefit and be able to tell others, and when someone does have it, right then, get that plant and put it on them, or do a massage, or put some hydrotherapy on, something to relieve the pain. God sent that person to you for that reason, to reduce the pain. Don't send them off to the doctor. They don't need aspirin. There's nowhere in our body that needs aspirin like in a tablet. You can give them a half a lettuce, though. There's aspirin in lettuce. It helps with pain relief, helps with the heart, it helps with the blood. So it's just a matter of knowing these things and doing them, and you'll have many, many stories to tell, as I get carried away too much too. So here's our humble chickweed, which is usually pulled out of the garden, and the gardener doesn't really want it to be there, but it's healing, it's healthy to eat, it's restorative, it helps in so many ways. Okay, so let me just, the little fruit is where the seeds are, and there's so many seeds. Let me see if I can get the number. Here we go. What does this say? So about 1 millimeter. They're very small, tan, pale, reddish, brown. Yeah, it looks like a wart. It has all lumps all over it. Here it is. That's a seed. Millimeter wide, very small, but there are thousands of them. Okay, so it can reproduce just by creeping along and putting its roots down, and that's how it mainly does. But, here's a picture of the hair. Can you see those hairs standing up just on one ridge, one side of the stalk? When you break a mature stem of the chickweed, you'll have a string inside. And just let me see if I can get it on the one that's on the table here. See if it's going to do it for me. So what I do, I just pull gently. These ones are too young. Let me see if I can get another one. So I'll pull it. Without breaking the hair inside. Can you see that? I don't know whether that's rather difficult, but it has a hair inside, a string, I should say. So if I pull a bit harder, there you go. That's a string down in the middle of the stalk. another identifying mark of the chickweed. Bit of dirt on my computer. So yeah, chickweed, you'll love it. There's a lady by the name of, I think it's Aileen Shippard, Queensland herbalist that wrote a book about herbs over her lifetime, 40 years of doing it. And she always had a patch that was growing chickweed, and it was like 1/2 meter deep. And all through the summer months, she would be finding people to give these chickweed to, and people would drop in and ask for their daily supply of chickweed because it was helping skin problems, inflammation problems in all sorts of diseases. And on the farm, that's what we do as well. We have that chickweed there, and it goes in the smoothie. People don't even know they're having it, and it's reducing the pain through reducing the inflammation, trying to put the fire out. Okay. Here we go. Let me just read some of this. Young leaves and shoots, raw or cooked as a pot herb, are delicious, very nutritious. They can be added to salads, whilst the cooked leaves can scarcely be distinguished from spinach, the young spinach. Seeds ground into a powder and used in baking bread or to thicken soup. So, if you're making your own gluten-free, you don't have to use psyllium and slippery elm and those mucilage type of herbs. You can use this one. It's free once you've got it growing. Let's see what it's got in there. Seeds ground into powder and make into bread, thicken soups. It would be very fiddly to harvest any quantity of the seeds, but after they've said that, if you were to hang the plants up like you would to dry, and it's while you're drying the herb for during the winter when they don't grow, to use as herbal teas because they have the same property, the seeds will fall out. Now, if you put something underneath to catch it, like a tarpaulin or a newspaper, anything to catch those seeds, you're going to get loads of seeds. So you could use them in the place of protein and fat. 17.8% protein, that's not bad. So what people do most with chickweed is to use as a green in the sandwiches. Yeah, easy with the salad. But as they get older, they're not so tasty and a little bit stringy. So we put them through the blender, blend them up in our smoothie, and you can't taste it. There's no real taste. Like a bit like lettuce, not so much taste to them. Okay. I think I've got that. Oh yeah, be reminded here. It's reminding of that string that I was telling you about. If you get the older ones, the string is quite tough, and so you'd have to just use the leaves rather than the stalk. All of it is beneficial. You can eat the lot, but you can chew for a long time with that string inside, and it's probably not necessary. Yeah, as it says there, it'll come to a place where you can't eat it. To just even when it goes through the blender, it's very, very fibrous, and you don't need that amount of fiber in your gut. Okay. Yeah, long history. Okay, so for itching, It's good for itching. You get the sap and put it straight onto the spot. And as it's saying here, you'll be trying other things and they have failed, where the chickweed will really do a wonderful job. Again, it's inflammation. Remember, when you're itchy, it's usually inflammation that's causing, or something that's causing inflammation. So reduce the inflammation and you've got yourself a good treatment. Okay, so it aids digestion. It's got the poultice thing here. Yeah, good for if you have varicose veins, the small little spider veins, it would be good for that as well. Emollient means that it makes things feel better. Okay, so I'll leave you with these things. We talked about constipation, kidney complaints, eye wash, those things. Most of that is, except for the constipation, inflammation. Okay. It can cause diarrhea and vomiting. So be sensible. You don't eat too much cabbage or too much lettuce. It's just the same. Be understanding that overdoing it could cause. I've never seen anyone vomit from it, and the diarrhea I have, because it cleans, as it says, the saponins in it will cause the diarrhea. Other than that, they always have to put the disclaimer about the pregnant women. Yeah, just try a little bit to start with and work into it. And it's the same with every new plant that you introduce that you haven't had before. Just take a little bit at a time and build up. Like I would suggest that you have 4 leaves or 4 flowers as your goal. So you start off with 1, put the 1 flower in. If it doesn't give you any diarrhea or, I mean, talking about flowers and leaves, 4 leaves, 4 flowers of each of the plants in your garden, then you'll know whether or not you're suitable for that, to have more. Yeah, oftentimes people say they've had to run to the toilet the first few times at the farm. It's not like what's some of our herbs for constipation, getting tired. Senna. It's not like senna. Senna will send you to the toilet, pretty quick, and you only have to have a few leaves in the cup of hot water and have it as a tea, and it will do a pretty solid job if it's a good product. So it's not like that. You'd have to have a good cup of the stuff to get it to make it have diarrhea. If not, if it's less, that's why we're saying start less, then you need to be careful. Just try it slowly, a few leaves, and work your way up. But find out what is the problem, because it may not be the chickweed, it might be some other condition that you have. Okay. Slavs. Plantain is I had pictures of all these herbs that I was going to share with you as well. Plantain is another one, which the broadleaf plantain has the psyllium husks on the seed. So they use the plantain to harvest the seed, and they sell the husk off the seed as psyllium. I hope you all know about psyllium. We can talk about that another time, and I'll show you all about Plantago laceta one time. it's a good herb. We have them now. We put them into a garden bed because it's amazing what it can do with skin and irritation of any kind in the body. Reduces the inflammation. All right, so that'll teach you how to make it. We can maybe pass over that one. I haven't quite finished this. So yeah, this is the radium weed that I was talking about earlier. It grows nearly anywhere and about 20 centimeters high when it's well grown. Oftentimes they only grow very small in poor soil, but you'll notice them. Even find them under the house, just enough light to keep them alive, and they'll be maybe 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters high, and well drained. So they don't like lots of water, but yeah. So here we have the botanical name. So you see it there, it's called cancer weed, radium. It's only similar when it's small. So as it grows older, it doesn't have that string in the middle, and it doesn't have, it has white sap rather than clear. Okay, so yeah, just keep it away from your eyes and from any area that may be soft tissue. It will burn. All right, so tells you a bit about the growing. It grows anywhere, believe me. I picked that one up. I just ducked outside before we started, and right there at the door was a radium weed and a dandelion and the other chickweed and so on. Okay. Oh, here's a place you can actually buy these herbs or weeds. So if you want to know for sure that you picked the right thing, they will send it to you, and it looks like it's a pretty it's an excellent company. They will send it to you as soon as possible. So they're probably just new on the market, but they've done a good job so far, supplying all the weeds that you like. Now, if you got the money and you have the incentive to get it in a pot with a name on it already, then your identification is more than likely what it is. Get the idea? So I thought that would be interesting for you. Chickweed. Oh, yeah, chickweed. And remember, it is only chickweed if it shows a chicken breast, a crest, and if you find a chicken bone. It's the bone, they're talking about the string in the middle, and the crest is the way the flower hangs. They're just something extra. All right, it came from Europe and Africa, Asia. Okay, so I think that's about it. Oh, yeah, the flowers. Now, carrot weed. Maybe do we need to finish now? I think we might be going a bit over time.
Yeah, I think we finished, and we can let people ask some questions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So we just ask some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, good presentation there, Brother John. Very interesting indeed.
Yes.
I thirst for this sort of natural stuff, natural healing. I've seen so many results with it, but yeah, very interesting. But you spoke about the woman who was low in sodium. I went to the doctor about 4 months ago and had a blood test, and he said that my sodium was very low, 27, supposed to be up around 35 to 45. So it was very, very low and can be quite dangerous. And he put me on,
drip?
So somehow